That's a little bit more light on the situation. Hey y'all, it's me, Shal360, and today is Jungin's birthday here in the United States and in this part of the globe. Yesterday was the start of his birthday in Korea. In Korean age, he would have been 30 years old. In international age, he is 29 or would have been 29, and it's been almost a year and a half since we lost him. And it still feels unreal, especially on days like his birthday. But where today could be sad, I have to say, I have not been sad about his birthday this year. Last year was a mess, but this year I'm not sad on his birthday because I think I finally gotten to the point where I just refuse to associate him with sad memories whenever I can help it. And because birthdays are traditionally days of celebration, I'm just really focused on the celebratory aspect of the fact that we were lucky enough to have Jonghyun in our lives. So, seeing as this is the last few hours of his Western birthday, I thought they would be a great place to end my Shinee collection videos. And the one collection video that I have not shown yet is my Korean album collection. Now, my Korean album collection is not super impressive. Hi, Keish. It's actually pretty basic. There are a few things that I'm missing, quite a few things I'm missing. But I'm proud of this collection because if it wasn't for this collection here, I would have never fallen in love with Shinee. I would have never began collecting, period, more than likely. And I wouldn't be who I am right now in terms of my involvement with the K-pop unboxing community. So this collection here really is the most important part of my collection when it comes to just why I'm a Shawwal, what defines my fandom. And that's the reason why I'm really glad I get to share this with you on Jonghyun's birthday because he was an amazing man and I'm glad to celebrate him and I'm glad to celebrate the legacy that he built with his group members. So I don't have this stuff in any particular order because I was pulling it off my shelves and trying to make room for it. So things just are where they are. Bear with me. I will try to go in chronological order, but I might have to hunt around for some things because some things are buried. So be kind, please. All right. So I think that it's most obvious that we need to start from the very beginning. Here we have Shinee, the first mini album. This was their first release. This has Replay, which is probably one of the best debut songs in all of K-pop. I know there are people who would argue with me. That's fine. Your opinion is your opinion. My opinion is fact. But yeah, Replay is a truly magnificent song. There's just never been anything like it, and I doubt that there ever will be. So just want to put that out there. Um, Now that we've talked about the obvious in terms of it just being a magnificent and perfect song, let's talk about Shinee and their evolution. So we start out with a Shinee that are literal babies. They have all got black hair, basic bowl cuts. We've got them in clothes that are just, I just don't see a today's Shinee wearing something like this. But it's important because that was their concept. Their concept was fresh, shining youth. And so having them come out like this, looking like the boy next door, the boy that you might have had a crush on, or the boy who works at the corner store down the street that you see all the time, the neighborhood boy. It was really important for that image to be portrayed. And I think that SM did a beautiful job making sure that that happened. So I really, really like this album for those reasons alone. Next, we have the repackage of this album. There are two versions. Shiny World, the green version, and then Shiny World, the black and white version. Now, when it comes to Shiny World, either or is fine. It's really weird the way that SM does things, but they reprint the albums because, of course, new fans come along, they want to collect the old stuff, and one or the other will go out of print. So sometimes it's the black and white one that'll go out of print for a while and they're only reprinting the green. Other times the green will go out of print and they're only reprinting the black and white. If it was me and I was starting out as a brand new collector, I recommend getting either one of them, but getting them used. I mean, I understand wanting to buy things brand new, but in the very first part of Shiny's discography, there are no photo cards. So really, there's no point in buying brand new when you could buy used to get the exact same product and be happy. And I wouldn't pay an extreme amount of money for either of those albums because, again, we're talking about something that goes in and out of print. So sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. It just really depends on the whims of SM. So don't be fooled by thinking, oh, this is going out of print, so I've got to buy it right away. That's not necessarily true. I'm going to turn off the flash. I hope you don't, or the light. I hope you don't mind. It's just really draining my battery. So sorry, I know it's a little bit darker now. I apologize, but just it was really a drain for me to keep the flash on. So that's the first album. Then SM does Shiny's first repackage, which is Amigo. Amigo is my old school favorite Shinee album. Like before Married to the Music came out, Amigo was my favorite Shinee album. And it was my favorite Shinee album because vocally it is so very good. This was definitely a time when SM was very harmony intensive, I guess is the best way I could put it. They really had a focus on building these kind of R&B harmonies when it came to their groups. If you listen to early TVXQ, that vocal harmony, five-piece vocal harmony thing was a really big deal for them. So when it came to Shinee, it was very much the same way. And I really like that about Shinee as a group. I like that about SM as a company. And it's something that I find myself very much attracted to. And this album was all about the harmony. It was about the ballad. It was definitely very much an R&B laced album. And R&B is kind of where I come from in terms of music. So I love this album. I love this album so very, very much. And like I said, for a long time, it was my absolute favorite Shinee album. I recommend it for anyone wanting to get a handle on kind of the basics of Shinee's sound. It did evolve over time, absolutely, but it is kind of a basis for everything else that they do, that at the end of the day, Shinee can experiment with concepts, but they are strong vocally, and every experiment they do is backed up by phenomenal and very solid vocals. So I love this album, and I tell everyone they should get it. Everyone should get it. If you like R&B, Usher, who else? Neo, that kind of stuff, Amigo's the album for you. So now we're going to get into one of my least favorite periods in Shinee's history, which is their paper packaging. I don't like their paper packaging. I don't like paper packaging for anybody, but I did not like it for Shinee. So where we start at, we start with this, which is Romeo, their second mini album. And the big song off of Romeo, of course, was Juliet. Paper packaging is basically this booklet style that the CD is in the back. And Romeo, the special that they did with that album was that they did these personalized back covers. So if you're wanting to buy this brand new from a K-pop store realtor, K-pop store retailer, depending on who you're buying it from, you can ask them, can you give me the Minho back or the Jonghyun back or the Key back or the Taemin back or the Onu back? But I mean, that is a strong suit on this particular one, but I absolutely hate the way that the CDs are positioned here. It's these little flaps, and it's just, of all the ways that you can package CDs, I just really, really hate that. It is one of my least favorite packaging styles of all time. And they did this repeatedly for 4 releases. So I'm currently looking to buy the other 3 covers for this one. Initially, when I first started collecting, I only wanted the one cover, the Minho cover. Same thing with their Sherlock album. But now that I've gotten to a point where I have most of the Korean things, I'm looking to go back. And if I can get them used, I'd like to get the other 3 covers for Romeo. Their next paper release was this, which is their third mini album, 2009, The Year of Us. 2009, The Year of Us is one of my favorite eras for Shinee, period, point blank. And it's one of my favorite eras for Shinee because it has one of their most classic hairstyles, so perfect. But it's also one of my favorite periods for Shinee because it also has Ring Ding Dong. And this was during the time that they were doing Hello Baby, and their star was really on the rise. And I remember watching Hello Baby for the first time and watching the little baby do the ring ding dong dance, and I've just loved this song ever since. This mini album is not their strongest. I think about all the mini albums that they've ever done, this is probably their weakest for me in terms of consistency, but it was also during a time when I started getting into fan fiction. Not that I didn't know who Shinee was in 2009, but when I first got into Shinee and I was reading fan fiction, a lot of the fan fiction I read was involving this styling era for Shinee, so a lot of sentimental value for me. So yeah, again, it's this stupid paper packaging, and if the album was in here, because I don't keep my albums in there, it would be these flaps on the back cover. Nobody likes that. I'm glad SM doesn't really do that anymore. I don't think anybody really does this particular paper packaging anymore because there was such a backlash against it. Next, we have their second full album, which is Lucifer. There are two covers for Lucifer. There is this one, which is kind of a behind the scenes of the music video, and then there's this one, which is more of like a post-apocalyptic Walking Dead fairy creature type of thing. I can't describe it. You'll have to look at an unboxing, but the picture set from this is wild. But it's got one of my favorite Minho pictures of all time, which is like this kind of like soft slash hard Minho picture. I'm going to try to get to it if I can. Ah, there we go. I love this Minho. I love this Minho because this is like a really soft boy, but at the same time, I mean, you can see his musculature. He's very masculine. I don't know. It's just a combination of a lot of things. The thing I hate about this packaging, which I think you can tell already, the pages, because of the way the packaging is, they tend to want to fall out, which was one of the big drawbacks of this style of paper packaging. The glue's just not strong enough to keep the pages in. So I have two copies. I have this copy of this one and I have this copy because this one was falling apart. But what was weird is when I got this copy, I didn't think anything of the way it looked. So it has this back here, which, I mean, I don't know why this is back here. But then when I got my second copy, I bought my second copy used. This was the back of the second copy. Totally different. I don't know why it's different, but it's just something to note. I don't know if one is a first press, one is a second press. I've never been really clear about what the difference is, why there is a difference, but it is something to look for if you decide to buy this particular album. And then, like I said, the other version is just basically behind the scenes of the video shoot for Lucifer. Okay, so because this was a period where you could be guaranteed a repackage of any full album, you have a repackage here, which is Hello. I love Hello. A lot of people really don't like the Hello song slash era. I know personally, I was very disappointed by Minho's hair in Lucifer, and then he kept that same super short hair in Hello, but I actually really like Hello. I think Hello is a really sweet song, and I think it doesn't get the credit it deserves for being such a really cute song. But yeah, this repackage is really nice. There's nothing to write home about in terms of the packaging. Again, we're talking paper packaging, and it's got a nub instead of the flaps, but still, I'm so glad that they decided not to do this anymore moving forward. Now, Hello era marks the end of the consistent popularity building of Shinee. Well, I don't want to say the end. That's not right. During Hello era is when Jongin's dating scandal started. And so Shinee took a bit of a hiatus after the release of Hello. They began to concentrate their efforts in Japan because SM was kind of waiting for the public to cool down after Dispatch had released the pictures of Jongin and Shin Se-kyun walking together, cuddling together, sharing kisses, and people are like, oh no, not my idol, how dare you? And it's really ironic that at the time that this scandal happened, a lot of people were calling for Jongin to leave Shinee. Like they were like, throw him out, you don't need him, he's a traitor, all this terrible stuff. And now like we all miss him so much as a person, and we've had to really kind of grapple with the reality of an OT4, where at this point in the game, people were begging for an OT4. I mean, it's just how things change. how things change. Speaking of hello, I've got this right here, which I've shown it on my channel, I think a couple of times, but it is the Io Corsico Soul Medley album. Um, this is really weird. But this is I guess they did some kind of deal with some makeup company or retail company. I have no idea. But SM agreed to let them do DJ remixes to a bunch of different SM artist songs. So the track list is here, and I don't know if you can see that. It's really hard. They did a remix of Trick, a remix of Hello by Shinee featuring Glenn Check, a remix of Ice Cream, a remix of Sexy Free and Single, and a remix of TVXQ's Before You Go. And I bought this on a whim. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but the Glenn Check remix of Hello is really good. So for people who don't like the original Hello, I've heard that people like the remix a bit better. So maybe check that out if you have the time. All right. So after Shinee decided to take their act to Japan, where people were a little less judgmental, had a little bit more common sense, they decided the time was ripe to return to Korea. And this is the era in which I got to know Shinee personally. It was my first introduction to Shinee. It is Sherlock. Sherlock era for me will always be precious. One of my favorite Shinee songs of all time is on this particular mini album. It is the song Alarm Clock. When Shinee came back with Sherlock, the first line of the song is Shinee's back. And it was such a declaration for them to start the song like that because, again, a lot of people didn't expect that Shinee would be able to recover from the scandal if they kept Jungin in the group. They had no idea how wildly successful Shinee was going to be in Japan, and they had no idea what was in store for them when this song came out. This song had amazing choreography. It had a super memorable look and music video, and it is one of those songs that is an earworm to you, that I'm so curious, yeah. Like you can't forget it once you hear it. And so I love this era. It's what made me want to check Shinee out in the first place, and we've been rocking ever since. So I have been a Shawwall since 2012, in case you all were wondering. It's also the year I kind of really deeply got into K-pop, but yes, I love this era. And I love that it was the end of paper packaging because fuck them things. I hate them so much. I hate paper packaging. So this was the end of paper packaging, and we got this weird kind of see-through sleeve envelope thing. I don't know how to describe this, to be quite honest with you, because it's really unique. So it's kind of like a sleeve, but it's closed at the bottom, open at the top. So it's not exactly like an envelope per se. I don't know how to describe this packaging, but one of the big drawbacks of this packaging is because of this clear kind of plastic casing, it's glued on the edge to try to keep it together. As time goes by, the glue starts to become less adhesive and it starts to separate. Also, it's got this kind of sharp edge for the bottom of the packaging, and when you take the individual photo books out, because there's, if you can see it, there's a bunch of individual photo books. There's 5 individual photo books and then 1 group photo book. When you take them out, it can be very tricky to get it back in without damaging the bottom of the photo books. So that's something to really keep in mind. So these came with 5 different versions, member versions. Now, it doesn't really matter which one you get when you buy this because you get all of the photo books of each individual member. What changes, which is why it matters, I guess, to some people if you're an avid collector, is that the back of the plastic casing is different and the back of the group photo book is different to match the plastic casing. So that is something that you want to keep in mind if you're collecting. So for instance, this one right here, this is Key's version, and it's got the orange and green on the side, and then the back is orange with green letters. Then this one is Jungin's version, so you can see it's yellow and blue, and in the back it's kind of maroon, and gray. And then Minho's version is a kind of abstract drawing of him. And then on the side, you've got the pink and the green. So let me pause for a second in terms of showing stuff so I can read some of the comments because I haven't been addressing them. So hello to K hip hop, K R&B enthusiast. If you're not subscribed to her, you need to go ahead and do it. You really are missing out. She has amazing, very pleasant K hip hop unboxings. They are a source of joy for me, and I'm very jealous because I wish that was my style of unboxing. Mason says it's a really nice pic of Minho. Oh, Alex says, only now did I just realize that I know who Shin Se-kyung is. Glad he loves Hello. Finally, somebody after my own heart. Shinee will forever be my kings of K-pop. They're legends and I'll forever love and support them. Agreed. Mason says, Sherlock is such an amazing era. You got that right. Jordan Young says, I have really liked Shinee recently, but I'm so hesitant to try to start collecting an older group. It's kind of scary for me, especially trying to keep up with new releases. Jordan, my advice for you if you're going to start collecting Shinee, depending on what your budget is, because that is always a consideration to keep. Depending on what your budget is, I recommend buying a lot of the older albums used if you can. I would focus on whichever songs are your favorite from the catalog, and I would go from there. In terms of their older albums, always go for the repack. So for instance, the mini albums don't have repackages because Shinee didn't do that. But for the very first album, there's a repack called Amigo. For the second album, there's a repack called Hello. For the third album, there's a repack called The Misconceptions of Us, which we'll get to in just a moment. For the fourth album, the repack on that one is Married to the Music. For the fifth album, the repack is One of One. So I would start with the repacks because you get the most music whenever you buy the repackaged album. Then in terms of mini albums, again, I would focus on which songs are your absolute favorite. Oh, for the sixth album, the repack is The Story of Light Epilogue, FYI. But yeah, I would go with whatever the favorite song is of yours and then concentrate on getting that because you're not worried about trying to help the group climb up the chart with their old releases. Always go for used if you can. And my big recommendation, depending on your budget again, try a proxy site. Try a From Japan or Zen Market. There are a lot of really good auction opportunities where people are selling lots of albums. So they'll sell like 5 Shinee albums in one go for 15 bucks. And you do have to pay a little bit more for shipping to get it over here, but depending on how many albums you win, it could be a really good deal for you. So these are the things that I recommend if you're trying to build up your collection. K R&B enthusiast says Minho's cover got me quaking. It is quite beautiful. Jordan Young says I started collecting last year, and so I basically have had to start from the beginning with everyone. Being a K-pop fan is incredibly expensive. Not that I ever stopped myself. Agreed. It is very difficult once you take it into your mind that you want to start collecting the physical albums because most physical albums, once you factor in shipping, when they're brand new, on average are around $20 a piece if you're a smart shopper. So let's say that you are buying from Choice Music LA, which right now is kind of my go-to because once I factor in shipping, it's incredibly reasonable. My next go-to, keeping shipping in mind, is Yes Asia. And then you can get some really good stuff on K-Town For You. You can get some good stuff on ketchupcd.net. You take your chances with import CDs, but they're also an option if you're looking for that. But once you factor in shipping, yeah, $20 easy for a K-pop album. And if you are a multi-fandom, like it sounds like you are, Jordan, trying to buy every album for every group is nigh on impossible. So if I had to say what's the most important thing to do, I think you should use the Marie Kondo method. And I think that's just find out what brings you joy. Do your research. You don't have to buy everything the minute it comes out. Now, KR&B, yes, you got to buy that as soon as it hits the streets because that shit will sell out. But in terms of mainstream K-pop, a lot of times you can wait for a minute, watch some unboxing, see if the packaging is really worth your time. And if you really love the packaging, or if the song is just that sentimental to you that you don't care about the packaging, you just want to have it on your shelf to look at, those are the things that you want to concentrate on. Those are the things that you want to direct your money to. Don't get caught in the cycle of thinking, well, everybody else has this, so I want it, or this is the popular release, so I need to get it, because that's not necessarily true. You've got to do you. And so don't be pressured by these people with these huge collections, because what they don't tell you is all the stuff they had to do to get those collections, all the opportunities that they missed for travel and shopping and other things to pay for these big collections. What they don't talk to you about is the fact that maybe it took them years to get their collections, which what you're seeing here is the culmination of years of collecting. This was not all bought in a day, a month, even 1 year. This is years of collecting. So with that in mind, just be warned, be wise, and try not to be too impulsive if you can help it. Alex says, I remember looking through the photo books the first time I got this and was like, what the heck is going on in these pictures? Yeah, well, the pictures for Sherlock admittedly are quite scandalous. Let's start with, well, I'm not going to go through all of them, but let's just go ahead and go with Minho, because he's sitting right here sucking on a bottle waiting for us to talk to him. So this is Minho's cover, which nipples already. And yeah, I don't know who did this. Probably the same person that did the photo book for Stella's Vibrato. But yeah, this is, I don't know what this is supposed to be. I don't, I think it's supposed to be like hippie, but also kind of sexualized. I don't know. I don't know. Minho's still a baby at this point, so it's kind of weird to see him like this. Like, he was a legal adult, but it's just kind of like, child, put your clothes back on. But yeah, all of them were like that. Everyone was shirtless except for Onu. I think Onu was the only one that wasn't shirtless. Even Key was shirtless, and Key's not built like that. This was 2012. So probably at that time, I would say Minho is 28 now. 7. Yeah, 21. Yeah, I guess about 21. So he was still a youngin. He was still a youngin. I'm gonna be 40 this year, so to me, that's a youngin. But yeah, definitely a declaration was being made when those photos were taken, which is, I'm not a boy no more. Better take me seriously, because yeah, but still kind of with a kind of Lolita-esque overtone. I don't know. Conflicting messages here, definitely. So now that we've talked about Sherlock and the resounding success that Sherlock was, like, Sherlock was super popular. People really, really, they were here for Shinee during this era. So with that in mind, Shinee embarked on one of the busiest years of their career, 2013, and we have 4 releases in Korea for 2013 that we're going to get into. Some more comments missed. It looks like Jordan says, yes, I'll only buy if I've listened to the whole album and like either all or the majority of the album. I've made myself not buy things until I finish the whole album, not just the title track. I made the mistake with Stray Kids' debut album, only listening to the title track, and I bought both versions and didn't really like the whole album, unfortunately. Well, that happens to the best of us, girl. Hell, I did the exact same thing with Stray Kids, practically. So don't feel bad if you've made the mistake of buying an album where you really only like 1 or 2 songs, because sometimes, depending on what that song is, it might be worth it to have the whole album. I definitely know there are a couple albums I bought where maybe like the title track was my fave, but the title track was like so good that I was willing to make concessions in order to have it in my life. So here we are with the first set of releases for 2013. It's the Misconceptions series. And it's called the Misconceptions series because there's Misconceptions of You, which is Dream Girl, Misconceptions of Me, which is Why So Serious, and then Misconceptions of Us, which is the box set. So the first one is this one, I believe. Is this? Yeah, this is Dream Girl, The Misconceptions of Us. I love this title song. It was my first comeback with Shinee, and I just think that the video is so much fun. The song is so much fun. The song to me reminds me of like, what does it remind me of? It reminds me of like popsicles. That's what it reminds me of. It's cool and refreshing and youthful and fun. And it's something that makes you smile. It's something that you like. So I just really, really dig it. And I have to say, it's a good thing I dug the title song because the album, I did not get the album at first. I was like, what is all this? Hitchhiker's on here. That's a weird song. The intro song on here, which is Spoiler. My camera's not really wanting to focus. Spoiler, weird song. But this was also the time that they were filming One Fine Day, also known as Shinee's Surprise Vacation. And because these songs from this album played in the background for that show, I've kind of grown to love this album in a lot of ways. And reevaluating my feelings for it, my favorite song on here, even though of course Dream Girl is perfect, is Runaway. And the song Runaway played while we were waiting for Shinee to come on stage for Shinee World 5 in Dallas. And I mean, I just got chills because I just love it so much. And it's one of those songs that reminds me of that sensation of putting your arm out of the window in a car and just kind of letting your arm rock with the wind as it passes by you. It's just so breezy and so fresh, and I love it. I just love it. So as breezy and kind of weird and quirky and fun-filled as Dream Girl is, we have this, which is Why So Serious? Misconceptions of Us. And it was the first Shinee title song that I absolutely did not like. I had never had that sensation before. There really weren't that many Shinee songs I disliked. I thought that 2009 Year of Us was a weak collection of songs, considering how strong everything else that they've put out is. But this was an album where the first time I heard Why So Serious, I could not stand that song. And to this day, I still don't really get down with Why So Serious. But it's a number of factors. Number one, the song I really didn't get because it took a long time for me to understand it was supposed to be a musical song instead of a pop song. Like, it was supposed to be like a song that you would see in the course of a musical because this was a highly themed project. Also, Jungin was not in the video for Why So Serious because he had had a car accident and had broken his nose. So he was actually in the hospital right before this album came out, and he could not promote with the group until the end of promotion. So overall, this was not my favorite time for Shinee, but this album is really good. It's a lot darker than Dream Girl for sure, but great songs on here. Medusa, such a good song. Orgle, such an interesting, weird song. Not like anything else in K-pop. Like a Fire, I love that freaking song so much. Excuse Me Miss, such a hot song. Like, there's just so many great things on this album. And so I still recommend it. I still recommend it. But again, for those of you who are thinking, how do I want to collect Shinee? How can I do it in the most efficient way? Buy this. Misconceptions of Us. You basically get both of the albums in one box. Plus, you get this bonus photo book, which has, I think it's their anniversary events in here. It's got some promotional events, like behind the scene pictures and stuff in here. Also, some really weird drawings. Like, Minho, what is this? What are you doing? I have no idea. I have no idea. But anyway, I definitely recommend getting this if you have the opportunity to. It's very special. I love it. And I think if I'm a beginning collector and I don't need to have every single thing, this is where I would go. Absolutely, this is where I would go. Not only do you get both of the original albums, plus you get the little additional photo book, but, and you can't see it from here, each album in the repack has a brand new song. So that's also something that's really important. So for this one, you get Celine, which is a beautiful song if you've never heard it before. And with this one, sorry about that, you get Better Off. Can you see that here? So yeah, definitely get Misconceptions of Us if you're on the fence about how you want to collect this. And then the other release in 2013, which hands down, fight me if you wanna, is their best mini album ever, is Everybody. Everybody coming off the heels of the Misconceptions album was such a surprise. Like, you already have them releasing 2 full albums in 2013. Couple this with doing Japanese promotions as well in 2013, and then finishing the year with Everybody, which is one of their most popular songs to perform in concert, did very well in the charts in Korea, and has one of the sexiest K-pop songs of all time, Symptoms. Like, Symptoms is such a good song. The lyric video for Symptoms came out before Everybody, the single, came out. And people were like, okay, so when's the full video? Because, like, we like this vibe, we like this feel, the lyrics are great, Jongin killed it. And Essence was like, no, that's a tease. That's a tease. And people were so mad. I was mad. But what makes up for that anger are the stages for Symptoms. If you haven't seen the stages for Symptoms, highly recommend it. There is some really nice camera work during those stages, some really interesting sets, everyone dressed in black and white, but it is just body roll central. I love that fucking song so much. So yeah, this is a great mini album. But aside from Symptoms and aside from Everybody being so popular, every song on this mini knocks. Every single one. Queen of New York sounds like a fashion show. Like, it literally sounds like a runway. 1 Minute Back, such a weird, quirky, strange song, much like Orgle, but not the same at all. But just like one of those ones that only a Shinee could do something like that. Destination, great song. And it almost feels like it shouldn't be on this mini. But then again, when you think about their discography, where else would it go? Close the Door. Oh, I love Close the Door. I love Close the Door. It's written by Jinbo, who's a personal favorite of mine. And so I couldn't help but love it. But it is very kind of like, I don't want to say slow jammy, but yeah, kind of slow jammy. Not as sensual as Symptoms. More romantic, definitely. Sounds more like love, where Symptoms sounds more like sex. And then Colorful, which is a song that I didn't initially think I loved. And as I've gotten older, it kind of comes up in my shiny Christmas mood type of music. So yeah, this is a practically perfect mini album. Please give it a listen if you haven't already. So reading some comments here. Alex says, Misconceptions of Me has one of my favorite Shiny songs, Oracle. You have great taste, Alex. Jade, who has terrible taste, says, why so serious, he. Late VIP Bloomer says, OMG, Everybody is my absolute fave. You have excellent taste. And Jordan says, yes, excuse me, miss, got me into Shiny. I saw the video of them performing it at a concert, and it really got me. The vocals were amazing, and in the video, Jongin had this platinum hair. I know that video because he does like an ad-lib section for the bridge, and he's like, no. It's just so funny. It is so funny. Ah, Jongin, love you so much. Jade says, you're making me want a Shiny-a-thon. Hey, now's as great a time as any. And Mason says, confession, I've never listened to the Everybody mini. I own it, but I've only ever heard Symptoms and Everybody. Wow, Mason. Wow. Okay, so Mason, if you're looking for a song to start with outside of Symptoms and Everybody, I definitely recommend listening to 1 Minute Back. It's just such a weird song. I'm not gonna take a Rachel Wall card. I'm not gonna do that because I'm not that kind of a person, but I would definitely start with 1 Minute Back. It's such a weird song. And if you are feeling like it's Pride weekend and you want to have something to kind of get dressed to, that's when you need to listen to Queen of New York. It makes you feel like you are 6'5" and weigh 150 pounds. Like, it makes you feel thin and beautiful. I shouldn't say that. There's nothing wrong with being a big girl. I'm a big girl. But I'm just saying, it makes you feel like you are a waif who only eats air chips and tears, and you are walking the runway in the most expensive Gautier couture ever. So I've talked enough about Everybody. I just wanted to really spend some time with it because it's wonderful. Oh, and if you're contemplating buying the mini album, you definitely need to be looking at the pictures in here. What an era, what a visual. Like, my God, my God. Could they be more perfect? No, they could not. All right, so thank goodness Shinee decided to kind of bring it down because they really were working at breakneck speed in 2013. So it was nice for them to get a little bit of a break, take some time for themselves, spend a little bit more time in Japan, you know, maybe do some solo work, really not focus on giving you something all the freaking time. And when they did come back, boy, did they come back. So the first release that they came back with after everybody is Odd. And Odd is odd. It's odd in terms of the album having so many different styles. It's odd because View was the title song for this comeback, and View is not like anything that Shinee's ever done before. So it was very interesting for fans because it was like this weird kind of throwbacky sound, just really refreshing. I've heard somebody describe it as pool party music, which is perfect. Yes, Alex, but the clowns. The clowns for these albums are so freaking creepy. So I'm showing you the first cover with a clown on it. You can see the clown right there. Minho's got it over his face. It's the first of many clowns in this particular packaging. But the other packaging, you only get a couple of clowns, but you start right here. Rah! Yeah, it's so strange. The packaging is so strange. And it started a trend for SM that we have got to kill. We have got to start writing to the head of SM. We've got to do a petition to the Blue House, whatever it takes. This started SM and these godforsaken slip covers. And the slip covers, don't get me wrong, I get it, SM. You're looking at cost cutting because you've done all this extravagant stuff before. You want to do something that's a little bit more basic. I got you. But these slip covers are demon's own seed. Everyone hates them. Everyone hates them. And depending on the material that your slipcover is made of, either your stuff is... All right, we're back. Sorry about that. You know it's not alive if I don't get cut off at some point. That's how that the party has really begun. And as soon as I start talking about SM and the Blue House, of course my live stream's going to shut down. But anyway, back to the lecture at hand. Slipcovers. Never a great idea. They always fuck it up somehow. Odd is no exception. Mine, I don't know if you can tell from the bottom, probably not that bad because I'm pretty easy with my stuff. But a lot of the corners of the photo book got damaged for me. The edges get damaged trying to put photo books and CD cases back in here because it's the friction and everything else. It just destroys the packaging. The slipcovers always end up kind of gnarled along the edges because of trying to get things in and out. It's just never a good idea, and I really wish that they would stop with this. But yeah, this was the first of 4 releases that end up having slipcover things. So yeah, no, I'm not happy with it, but it is what it is. So then we had a repackage for Odd, which took an album that I was unsure of and made it my official favorite Shinee album. Like, I have so much love for this album now, y'all. And it's all because of the repackaged songs. Like, the repackaged songs took an album that had a couple of misses and gave it certified hits. Let's start with the repackaged song. The repackaged song, Married to the Music. One of my favorite title songs Shinee has ever done. It's so Michael Jackson. It's so pop. It's so fun. The video is one of my favorite Shinee videos ever. It is just so them. The Kings of Halloween, even though it was released in the summertime. And Savior. Savior's a great song. Hold You. Oh my gosh. Chocolate. Oh my gosh. Like, they showed up and they showed out for this repackage. And I love it. And because it is so special to me, I spent a lot of time hunting down signed CDs for Shinee, and I was fortunate enough to be able to get one of these signed. And the one that I got signed is this one right here with the silver Kamka sticker. So let me show you my all signed Shinee album. I've shown it on my channel before, so this is not the first time you guys are seeing it. But yeah, OT5 signed album. I've never played the CD on this. I very rarely open this up. I don't expose it to sunlight. I'm extremely paranoid about anything ever happening to this. But yeah, it is something that I got, and it was a dream that I got it, and I cherish it immensely. If I never get another signed anybody's anything, that's fine, because I got the thing I wanted and needed the most. And I got it after Jonghyun passed away too, which is really surprising, because a lot of the OT5 signed things started going for really, really high after he passed. I paid a very reasonable amount for that. I paid around $60. So yeah, great. Great. Tim and Jean Junkie did have a really good review of Married to the Music. The repack songs were fire. The repack songs are absolutely fire. But there's a lot of good on this album as well, just for what was on the album. For what was on the album, of course, Odd Eye. What a great song. Like, you can't talk about this album without talking about Odd Eye. First of all, Key with the eye patch for the final stages for Odd, and Minho with the jacket with no shirt underneath, looking like he was about to pluck that button at any moment. Oh my gosh. Woo! Shinee was so hot for Odd Eye. Whoa, they were so good looking. And then, of course, Married to the Music. They did Savior for a couple of the Gaios at the end of the year. Great, great stuff. Why does Odd Eyes freak you out, Mason? Oh, okay. So I guess I can't talk about the best without talking about the worst. Hold You is my favorite Shinee song ever. I know. Weird choice. Not everybody's cup of tea. I just really love Hold You. Hold You makes me feel like I'm making love to someone. And I don't know how to describe that feeling, but like when I hear Hold You, it makes my spine tingle. I just love that fucking song. I love the ad libs for that song. It is perfection. But it also shares space with Wolf Wolf, which is the worst Shinee song of all time. Fight me in the comments. But yeah, Wolf Wolf is a song that I will never like. And I've seen Shinee live. And when I saw Shinee World 5 in Dallas, they had a VCR with Wolf Wolf on it. The VCR was super entertaining. It was really cute. Wolf Wolf matched the VCR very, very well. It doesn't belong on an album. It just flat out doesn't belong on an album. Not every song that's in a VCR should be on an album. Prime example, and there's a lot of people who disagree with me, but when Jonghyun was doing his inspiration concerts, he did a song called Young and Rich, and he did a VCR for it. Check it out, please. It's really, really funny, and also Jonghyun is like shirtless for most of it as well, being a total thirst trap. But the song is a really quirky song, and a lot of people really like it. For me, I think it was a song that matched very well with the VCR, not so much with the content of his entire albums. So I could see why it was left for concert only. Wolf Wolf should have been the exact same thing. That song is horrid. You will never be able to make me like it. Fight me in the comments. So after Married to the Music, there was a little bit of a hiatus. Again, Shinee was exploring solo albums, so it wasn't that they didn't want to release stuff. It's just that they were busy. They were still promoting in Japan. People were doing variety shows. I think Jonghyun was still doing radio, but Key, I think, was doing television shows. Minho was doing television shows. I don't remember what Onu was doing at the time. Taemin was trying to become Michael Jackson. Like, there was just a lot going on. And so they weren't releasing stuff as a team in Korea that often. So when they did come back, we weren't exactly sure what to expect. And what we got is Mason's favorite Shinee album, I believe. One of One, repackaged One and One. So One of One was not the breakout success that View and everybody is. Like, a lot of people, when those songs came out, immediately were like, this is great, this is wonderful, it is perfect. Don't get me wrong, One of One did win some music shows, but One of One was not as popular as Shinee has been known to be in the past. And so for a lot of people, it was kind of a disappointment. But for me, I think that One of One proves a point about Shinee being able to do any style of music, because this album is so jam-packed with goodness. Like, there's not a skip on this album. And it's ironic to me that my favorite album has a skip. But this album, which is probably in top 3 for sure, doesn't have a skip. And the very first song on the album is not the title song, it's Prism. Could have been a title song. Could have been a title song. Shift could have been a title song. Like, there's just so much goodness on here. Like, the only song on here that's really not my fave is So Amazing. And it's only because So Amazing comes on after You Need Me. And it's such a style shift that I find it a little bit jarring, to be honest with you. It's not a bad song at all. Onu did a great job with it. I'm just saying that stylistically, it doesn't fit as well on this album as maybe they thought it did. But yeah, Prism's a great song. One of One is a great song. Feel Good is a great song. Don't Let Me Go. Oh my gosh, that song. Woo! Ooh, top 5. Top 5 Shinee for me. Lipstick, great song. Don't Stop, so sexy. Shift, great song. Key does a live rendition of that for his Keyland performances, solo rendition. You Need Me, great song. Just so good. So good. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking this out. And then also Shinee being committed to the concept, Slept On Concept Kings. They went totally 90s with this. The photo card for this album wasn't a photo card, it was Pogs, which is really cute because that's very 90s. I remember my brother getting suspended from school for betting Pogs with kids at his school, but he was cheating, so he like stole a bunch of kids' Pogs. We should have known then he was going to be a delinquent. But anyway, 90s style for the clothes, 90s style for the songs, and then this gem, the cassette tape. Oh my gosh. Now, as you can see, I've never opened this. Plastic's still on it. I'm never going to open it probably because I don't want to. But I love this. I love this so much, and only a Shinee. Only a Shinee. So yeah, great stuff. And they came back with a repack, which was One and One. The title song on this one is Tell Me What to Do. Tell Me What to Do is really interesting to me because it is like nothing Shinee had ever done before. Really. It was more of a kind of like pop ballad, well, pop mid-tempo, very contemporary, not nearly as kind of R&B and dance based as most of Shinee's songs. The video was a story video, which the closest Shinee has come to story videos would be like Married to the Music and Sherlock. Like, Shinee doesn't really do too much in the line of story videos. It may be View. View is kind of a story video. Most of their videos tend to be performance videos. But yeah, it's a story video, no choreography in the video at all. It's very dramatic, very dramatic. I think at the end of the video, Taemin kills Minho and Minho's girlfriend. It's something different for sure. But quality music. The repack is really nice. The repack contained mostly ballads because there were so many kind of danceable songs on the original One of One. And one of my favorite songs on here, which is also Jazzy's favorite. Sorry, I have to look at the track list on here because I forget what the name of the song is. I always want to say that the song is called Run, and I don't think that's what the name of the song is. Fuck me. The one thing I hate about this particular album is that the track list is not obvious when you're looking at it, and that makes me mad. That I like to be able to look at the back of an album and be like, okay, there's the track list, look at the songs, keep it moving. That's not what this is. And that makes me sad. Rescue. I knew it was an R. Sorry about that, guys. Usually I'm on my game, but for some reason I was totally off on that one. But yeah, Rescue's my favorite song on the repackage. But definitely check these out. And, you know, Obviously, if you don't already know, this was our last OT5 Korean album, so it holds a very special place. Not saying that they are not OT5 forever, but just saying that this was the last album that Shinee had where Jongin was in the video for the Korean release, and the last one where he's featured prominently on every track on the album. So very, very special, for what it is, for the hallmark that it is. All right, and then the latest group release, slide that over here, Story of Light. Story of Light is an album that every day I'm thankful that we actually got this, because there was a while there where nobody knew, and it would have been totally acceptable. Like when Shinee had to be at Jonghyun's funeral procession, if they had buried the group with Jonghyun, I would have been completely understanding of that, because it's a trauma that very few people can come back from. To lose somebody who is not only your friend, your colleague, someone who has shared experiences with you that no one else will ever be able to understand, who you've known for almost half your life. In some cases, like Taemin was a child when Shinee came out. I think he was like Korean age 15, 16. So he's known Jonghyun since he was a kid, because they knew each other as trainees, and then of course performing together. And to lose someone who has been that big a part of your life and has meant that much to you professionally and personally, and who is the basis of your group's sound, it would have made perfect sense for me if they had just said, we're not doing this anymore because we can't, And also, you're talking about, at that point, 9, almost 10 years worth of a discography. So we're talking hundreds of songs at this point, featuring him in the choreography, him singing lead vocals or singing main vocals, even solo songs, because he has Y Si Fuera Ella on the Amigo album, his is solo. So if they had said, we can't do this anymore because it's too hard, or it hurts too much, or we don't want to have to redo everything to make up for that void, fans would have understood, because a lot of us still to this day haven't been able to go back to the old discography. Like, still to this day, on Twitter, Instagram, other social media platforms, people have said how they just can't go back to the old songs because it makes it hurt too much. And here we are, bystanders to the music, basically, to be the person who was in the room recording these things, promoting these things, sharing the memory of when the albums were selling, and when they were winning music show awards, and when they were going to different countries to sing the songs in front of crowds of thousands. It has a whole other meaning to them that it could never really have to me, because I didn't live that with them. I lived it from the sidelines. And so the decision that they made to come back is one of the bravest things that anyone's ever done in K-pop. To be quite honest with you, the only thing I could think of that even comes close to that is Ladies Code, when they decided to return with Galaxy after losing 2 members to a horrific preventable car accident. And again, in my opinion, I think if somebody hadn't truly fucked up, Jonghyun probably could still be with us. But it is what it is. Coulda, shoulda, wouldas. But yeah, this is a miracle album. It is a miracle that we have this, and we should treat it as such. And even though they did agree to come back with their 6th album, if Shinee decided that they were done after this, if this was merely to close a chapter, to commemorate a time, to celebrate who they were and who they will be, that's fine with me too. Like, I will never bother them about, when are you going to come back with a group album? When are you going to come back with a group album? At this point, as long as you're doing things to protect your sanity, I really could care less. So we'll start with episode 1, where the lead song for this one was, I can think of the Korean lyrics every time I think of the Korean lyrics, like I'm sorry about that, guys. I get lost. But the lead song on this is Good Evening. Favorite song on here for me is Undercover. Most people, their favorite song on here is Jump. All Day All Night is still a great song. They did this album in sections of 5. That was what they did. And each section has a special song on it. The special song in here is You and I, because Key composed that for obvious reasons. This packaging is super duper fragile, y'all. If you buy this album, please be careful with this. It comes damaged a lot of the time, and this one came damaged but in fairly decent shape. But it's this unsupported box structure which just crumbles in shipping if it's not packaged correctly. And then there's a lot of color rub off on this packaging, so I would have appreciated something a little bit sturdier for the fact that this is such an important release, but at least it's not a slipcover, so already we're winning. Then we have Story of Light episode 2. The main song in here was I Want You. Great song. Favorite song for me on here is probably Electric, but a lot of people like Chemistry. The special song on here for me is Who Waits for Love. I just really, really dig that song. And then we have episode 3, which is right here. This one, the main song is Our Page, which is the special song also. But also the super special track on here is Lock You Down. Lock You Down is the last song that Shinee released for OT5. At least to this point so far. It does feature Jonghyun's vocals, but he's not singing lead. He's kind of like in the mix. But it's a great song because it's not a sappy ballad. It's not a super fast song. It's more of a mid-tempo, kind of breezy song. It's got a weird structure, which is very typical of Shinee, which is why it's so great. It's typical of Shinee to give you something weird. And it has such a hopeful tone to it for being what it is. And a lot of the songs that are on Story of Light were songs that were re-recorded in order to release this album because they were songs that were recorded with Jonghyun's voice, because Shinee did have a comeback recorded and in the bag before Jonghyun died. Onu had this sexual harassment scandal, and because of the sexual harassment scandal, Shinee couldn't have a comeback in 2017, and Jonghyun had recorded songs because they were ready to release the comeback. But again, because of the scandal, SM said, we got to put this in the vault for now. Wait until the public is feeling a little bit better about you guys, and then we can release it. And then, of course, everything that happened. But somewhere in SM's vault of songs and mysteries, there is a Shinee album that wasn't released. There are songs from this album that were probably supposed to be on that album that have never been released that feature full Jonghyun vocals on them. There is a Jonghyun concert DVD that has never been released, which we all know about because if you watch the video for Before Our Spring, the clips from that concert DVD are used to make that video. And I think, this is my thought, the reason why that concert DVD was never released is because they couldn't get clearance from Jonghyun's family perhaps to do it, but also because a lot of the times during concert DVDs, they'll film the DVD and the groups will go back in the studio to dub over some of the vocals that can get lost during the sound recording process of recording the concert. Like sometimes the crowd is like super loud and you can't hear the vocals because it gets picked up on the individual mic, so they go back and they re-record some things just to make it sound a little bit clearer. But because of Jonghyun's passing away, he couldn't go back and re-record those things, so instead we end up getting Shinee World 5, the DVD. But yeah, I have a feeling that there's a lot in the vault that we don't have access to, and if anyone would be kind enough to get a job at SM and do a little corporate espionage, we would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much for the community service. All right, so the I don't want to say repackage, but the compilation of all of the different sections of Story of Light is this right here, which is Epilogue. The lead single for this is Countless. That's the only new song for Epilogue. If you haven't bought any of the first three, buy Epilogue. Save yourself a little bit of money because all of the songs are there. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that, guys. Hope you appreciate that. All right, so now we have talked about all of the group. I'll pay your bill because once I start selling these tapes, I'll have money. So I'm just saying, break in there. Do us all a favor. So now that we've talked about all the group efforts, it's only right for us to talk about these solo Korean albums because they're very important and they're very good. So we should definitely talk about them. So I'm going to start with Two Heart because this wasn't a solo, but it definitely isn't like a part of the Shinee discography. This was a project between two boyfriends. They decided, you know, we love each other. We really haven't had a chance to spend enough time together. And the only way that our record companies are going to give us vacation time to really get to know each other, have lots of unmonitored sex, is for us to do an album together. And so Key and his boyfriend Huyen decided they were going to do this Two Heart project. And, you know, live and love and be happy. So this is how we get Two Heart. And I realize that this is my fan fiction heart talking, so don't take anything I'm saying completely serious, but I will say this. At the time, the only person that Key was following on Instagram was Wooyeon. Same thing. Reverse. But I think they broke up a little bit later on. They quit following each other on Instagram. I have no idea what happened there. It's kind of the crush the auntie situation. I don't like to get into it because it makes my heart hurt. But Key and his boyfriend decided to do this album. And of course, the first song is called Delicious. And wiping your mouth, it is what it is. It is a great, great love saga of two young men who, through pursuing one woman, decide that they really weren't pursuing her because they liked her. They were pursuing each other because they were each jealous that somebody would get involved with the other when really they wanted to be involved with each other. So it's a great video. I definitely recommend taking a look at it. It's super duper cute. This project, I don't think did super well in Korea. I think it did okay, but it didn't do well enough to warrant Woollim and SM to do a second release for Two Heart. And I think this really is the only thing that was a joint production between SM and Woollim during the time that they had their kind of corporate agreement thing going on. So I almost feel like they agreed to like merge just to release this and so that Key could be happy. And then after that, not another word was said about their joint venturing. But yeah, it's a really unique thing in the discography for Shinee. So I thought I'd mention that. All right. So yeah, let's start with Taemin because Taemin solos are probably the most successful solos in terms of consistently really selling out and Korea being really on board with it. We'll start with this, which is Ace by Taemin. There are two versions. There's a black and a white. And I bought mine first press. And the reason I know that I bought mine first press, oddly enough, is because the CD itself has a variation. So when you play the CD for a first press version of Ace, instead of saying, I want to be your only ace, the song says, I want to be your only one. And I did not know what I was hearing when I first heard it. But then as I was playing it in my vehicle, I'm like, I want to be your only. And I would say ace, and the song would say something completely different. Like, wait a minute. But yeah, apparently the first press, they had the wrong version of the song on the first press release. So that's something to look out for. I don't know how to prove it because the packaging has no difference. So I don't know how to find out before you buy whether or not you got a first press or a later press. But it just is something that, you know, if you bought yours when it was first released, chances are you may have that mistake on your CD. But this is a great album to me. I really, really like it. I was watching an interview that Taemin did with iHeartRadio. It came out, I want to say about a week ago, maybe. But he talked about the fact that this album was not his idea at all. He said that the company had approached him about doing a solo, and he had always wanted to do a solo. But when this album came together, he had no input into the way he was concepted in this album. He didn't have any input when it came to song choices. It was basically the company came up with this entire project for him. But he said that he wasn't upset about that, that it was actually really nice to have the company do this project for him because it gave him a chance to see himself the way that other people saw him. So songs like Pretty Boy and Ace, those songs were not Danger. Those songs weren't necessarily what he wanted to do when he first came out with an album. It was really more about kind of the company saying, we think these are the things that fit you the best or differentiate you as a solo artist from what you are in Shinee. And it really did. It really did. There's a lot of people I know that do not like this mini album. Like, they hate it. I understand. I personally am not a big fan of Danger, but I like everything else on this album. And really and truly, for a long time, this was my favorite Taemin project. I really, really like Moving, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I really like Ace. I really, really, really like Ace a lot. And then also, what's special about Ace is that this cover was a much plagiarized cover within Shinee as a group, which we'll see a little bit later on. But that is also why this is so special to me, because it was the start of a trend for the group when it came to their solo releases. So the next release for Taemin as a solo artist is this right here, Press It. Press It, I found out through the interview that he did last week, was supposed to be a Shinee song. Somewhere in the SM vault is an OT5 version of Pressure Number. Someone's got to find it and release it. Someone has got to do it again. Someone needs to take one for the team, start working for SM as, I don't know, expert body greaser or whatever. But yes, you have got to find the OT5 demo and you have got to release it, because it blew my mind when he said that. It blew my mind when he said this was supposed to be a Shinee song, but it didn't seem to work with the group. So when it was time to do my solo, I tweaked the tempo and a couple of other things, and I put it on my album as one of my co-leads. I can't even begin to imagine what Press It would sound like with all of the members. I'm imagining Jongin doing like the ad-libs in the bridge and things like that. But yes, somebody, I don't know who, someone has got to sneak into the SM vault and release it for us. Just for us to hear it. Just for us to hear it, you know? Even if it's a shitty quality demo. I don't care. I don't care. I just want to hear it. I just want to hear it. But I have digressed. Anyway, Press It, Drip Drop, those were the title songs for this album. And Taemin says it was co-title songs, but I mean, obviously Press It was the main title song because it got 3 fucking videos, whereas Drip Drop got 1 performance MV, even though it is a hell of a performance MV. It is a beautiful video with stunning choreography and just lots of visual appeal. But this album, again, Taemin said he didn't have as much input as he has had in later projects, but he was able to choose a lot of the songs for this, looking through what he said is the catalog of songs that SM has. So apparently at SM, they got like a book that you just flip through and you can hear all the songs that SM has already paid licensing for. And that is how he chose the songs on here. He said his favorite song on this project was Soldier, which not my fave, but whatever. It is a fan fave, but it's not my fave. But he wrote the lyrics for Soldier, and that's why it's a fave for him. And one of my personal favorite songs that Taemin's ever done on here is, I believe it's called Until Today. I want to make sure I'm saying it right. Yeah, Until Today. It's a song written by Jisoo. He used to be signed to JYP. He's currently in the military right now, and I think he's signed to AOMG currently. But yeah, he wrote that song, and that song is stunning to me. Like, it is Taemin showed his ass on that song. Like, he is really crooning in that song, and I love it. But this album came with 4 different covers. So here's the first cover. Then here is the second cover. Then we have everyone's favorite cover. And then we have the last cover. And I know that some of these covers go out of print, but I can't really tell you kind of how they'll be reprinted. I just know that this cover here is most people's favorite cover for obvious reasons, because it is like hot without being really hot because he's kissing himself. I don't know. I just like it. I like it, and most people like it. So that's something to consider if you decide to buy this album. So that was Taemin's first album, and then he went from a first album directly into a second album instead of going into mini album. So this is the second album right here. This is Move, which I've mentioned it before in a video. I think in my my songs I didn't like at first, but then I grew to love. Move was a song I did not get at first. I'm like, what is this thing? It is like, it's kind of a throwback, almost 80s sounding pop song. I don't know how to describe it, but it just wasn't like anything else that was being played on K-pop. The choreography was very kind of genderless choreography. It was more sensual movement, not assigned to any particular gender, and it went over like gangbusters. Korea loves Move. Like, everyone on every variety show does it. Minho just recently had his Best Choice Minho fan meeting series, and he does his version of Move. All of Shinee has done their versions of Move. But yeah, like, everybody does Move, and it supremely established Taemin as one of those solo artists to really pay attention to. Like, in the pantheon of performers at SM, he and Taeyeon are both examples of people who their solo stardom almost in a lot of ways eclipses what the group is currently doing. So yeah, this was a really big deal. And then he followed that up with a repackage, which is Moving. The repackaged song is nice. I mean, it's not a bad thing to get, but this came out in December of 2017, so there wasn't really a lot of promotion for this, just because of the fact that it was a repackage, and the repackage was kind of a ballady title track, and then, you know, everything happened, so there weren't a bunch of, if things hadn't gone down the way they did with Jonghyun, Taemin probably would have been on every end of the year Gaio performing Move and doing other stuff, but you know, it is what it is. Life happens, you know. And so we do what we can. And then Taemin's latest release, which I only have one copy of so far, is Want. There are 2 covers for this. There's one that is black and gray with a yellow sticker on it. And then there's this version here. Want is very much in a similar vein to Move, that kind of genderless sensuality kind of vibe, which Taemin said he did on purpose. And apparently it's supposed to be part of a series, I think, because according to him, the outro song on this album alludes to other things that he'll be doing on a future project. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. But yeah, Want's a great song. Hot, hot. That refrain from the chorus is really nice. Want is not my favorite choreography off of this album. Oh, it's hard to see the track list here. Woo, it's super dark, buddies. It's super dark. Artistic Groove is my favorite song on the album. It also has my favorite choreography. I really, really like Artistic Groove. But yeah, Taemin has really been a standout for SM, and he's really establishing himself as something very special. I think out of all the members of Shinee, both he and Jonghyun were the ones that focused on their musical endeavors the most, that really bypassed doing a lot of dramas and other things. Even though Taemin has done We Got Married, he has done a couple of dramas here and there, but for the most part, he spent the last few years really cultivating his image as a solo star, and as so, he's done extremely successful concert tours in Korea, very successful projects in Japan, where he has also expanded his solo stardom, and I'm very proud of him. You know, at first, when he first got his solo, I'm like, why Taemin? Why didn't Jongin get the first solo of Shiny if they're gonna do a solo? But hindsight being 2020, I'm very proud of him, and for his growth, I think we all as Shawol should be proud because he was raised by the best. I mean, it's no coincidence that Taemin sounds the way he sounds. One of the things that he mentioned in his interview, you've got to watch his interview. It's actually a really interesting interview, even though it's an hour long. The time passed very quickly because the person interviewing him did an excellent job. But he talked about the fact that when he first joined Shinee, he actually did record for their first set of songs, but that he entered puberty shortly before the album came out, and they tried to fit his voice in, but his voice was changing, so they end up taking his voice out, and that he actually couldn't do any vocal training after he hit puberty because while his voice was changing, they said that he would damage his vocal cords if he started doing his vocal training during that time. So he actually had to wait until his voice had stopped changing to be able to start training as a singer. So, fun fact, and for him to start training as a singer after his vocals changed, I'm sure a lot of the tips and of the trade that he got was from being around his youngs and having them tell him, okay, this is what we do, especially his youngs like Onu and Jonghyun, who you can hear a lot of Jonghyun's vocal training in the way that Taemin sounds. But yeah, they've raised him up to be who he is now. And I'm sure they're very proud of him as well. I know they are. I know they are because Jonghyun was his biggest fan in life. All right, and so now let's go to other group solos. So let's start with Key. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Key's solo, which I never thought I'd see. Like this still amazes me that this exists. Face. And remember I was telling you there's a little bit of a plagiarism issue. Does this look familiar? It should, because it is very much the same, but it's kind of a running joke in Shinee that they do this because after Ace came out, Jonghyun came out with his solo bass, and he used virtually the same artwork to make his album. And then when Key went solo, it just made sense for him to use that same format for his album. And then Onu, when he did his solo, did the same format as well. So it's really, really cute that it's Ace, bass, face. And then, of course, Onu, because he doesn't give a damn about English, voice. Come on, dude. You couldn't think of something else. But yeah, Ace, bass, face, voice. And then a lot of people suggested that Minho's be like race or chase or something else. But no, Minho's like, I'm just going to do an SM Station song and mind my damn business. Key's Face. This is an excellent album. Like, I never expected Key to have a solo because I didn't think that he saw himself as a solo artist, but apparently he did. And he released this album, and it is so interesting. Key is another one that has an hour-long iHeartRadio interview, which is good to listen to. I like Taemin's interview a little bit more because it took Key a while to relax into the interview, but it's still a really good interview. But Key said explicitly that this album was him kind of showing everybody everything that they didn't see from the Key in Shinee. And he did a fantastic job. There's so many great moments on this album. The collabs he did on here were perfect. They don't overpower him at all. They're very interesting, and they're not there just for clout. They're there because they make a difference in the song. He does a completely English song on here. He does all of the different styles that he likes, all of the things that he's done over the years. Whenever he's had his solo stages and he was picking songs for solo stages, those style dynamics are reflected in Face. And it's just a really entertaining album to listen to. In fact, in Taemin's interview, he was saying, like, when he's in the car and he's listening to a song to make him feel good, he listens to Key's Imagine. And I just think that's the highest compliment because he could say anyone in the world, but he's like, no, actually, my group member has a fire album. People should listen to it. So if you haven't checked out Face, I highly recommend it. It's really, really good. And it definitely was an unexpected surprise, but it makes me want more of Solo Key because he's got his finger on the pulse. He definitely has his finger on the pulse. And then the other album that none of us expected to get was this, which is Onu's Voice. When Onu came out with this, first of all, we were like, Voice? Really? Come on, guy. But secondly, we were like, Onu's getting a solo album. And the reason why that was surprising is because when Taemin was getting a solo, when Jongin came out with a solo, people asked Onu all the time, do you want to release a solo? Are you going to be next? When's your solo coming out? And Onu always said, I'm not interested in a solo. That's not for me. I like being in my group. I like working on my acting. I'm not interested in a solo. And right before he enlists, he's like, ha, tricked you bitches, and releases this solo with a heartbreakingly beautiful lead song, Blue. It's so good. It's so good. And I hate that he left when this was released because we didn't get a single performance of this on a music show. I would have loved to have seen him sing this live, but he's healthy and he's happy and he's doing army musicals and he just made Company Commander today. Like, he's living his best life and we eagerly await for him to come home because we love him. He's our fave. The reason I have two blue versions of this is because import CDs are assholes, and they gave me two blues instead of giving me a blue and a white when I ordered two quantity on the same order. But you know what? It is what it is. Eventually I will get the white version, and I'll get that all corrected. So, you know, fuck what you heard. Oh, I forgot to show you this. This is the Forever Yours photo book. I didn't show this during my photo book section of my collection, but I did buy this. So there you go. So now let's go to our last segment here. Oh, I almost forgot too. Key did a repackage of Face called I Wanna Be. It's a great single. You should get it. This is the first Kino I've ever bought for anybody. I don't know that I'll be buying more Shinee and Kinos, but don't let me be a liar and say I'm not, because you know me. The collection bug is strong with this one. But it's excellent. If it wasn't for this damn mullet, this is excellent. Okay, so now to our final part, and you got here just in time, Tarian. Let's talk about Jonghyun's solo career, and it starts with Bass. Bass is an album that when it was announced, I was like, yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. This is what we've been waiting for ever since Taemin came out with his. It was like, yes, when's Jonghyun's solo album? And he did not disappoint. This album is so incredibly well thought out. It was put together in such a great way. It just... oh my gosh. It's just so good. It's so good. And of course we have plagiarism again, because Jonghyun's like, why come up with your own when you can just steal? But Jonghyun wrote all the songs on this because he had already been a rather prolific songwriter for Shinee, but he wrote all the songs for this album. He had fantastic collaborations on here. He collaborated with Zion T. He collaborated with Dumpster Juice. He collaborated with Yuna. He collaborated with Huesung. Like, he had fantastic collaborations here. And the fact that this album came out as good as it did was not bypassed by the public. Jonghyun won several music shows. He did a lot of end of the year Gaios. He had great sales with this. Deja Vu was really probably the most sought after song on this one. Like, it was the one that the public connected with the most. But I mean, for me personally, favorite song on here is Monodrama. Monodrama is, it's a song that makes me cry thinking about it, because it is, the lyrics are everything, the melody is everything, his voice is everything. There's a part in the bridge where he sounds like he's about to cry. I mean, it is a stunning, stunning debut. And, you know, if you were never familiar with Shinee as a group, and this was the first time you heard Jonghyun, you would feel like he'd been a solo artist forever, because he seamlessly floats into his solo career. So Great album. Great, great album. I definitely recommend you check it out. Next, we have this, which is Story Op 1. So Story Op, these were albums that were created based on songs that Jonghyun made during his Blue Night radio program. So people would write in about maybe a place where they needed advice, or maybe they just needed an opportunity to vent, or they had a story to tell and they just wanted someone to hear their story. And Jonghyun would a lot of times turn these submissions into songs. And he would perform the songs on his show. And he decided to do this release, which was a compilation of songs created for the show that were re-recorded in, a more formal studio setting with better instrumentation. And he released this to the public. And it wasn't meant to be about him. It was really meant to be about the stories. And that's the reason why this album does not feature his face in any photos or anything. It's just some artwork and the music. Don't let that fool you, though. Is a great album. It is definitely more ballad heavy, more jazzy than bass, but it's just really, really good. Skeleton Flower is probably my favorite song on this one, but Happy Birthday is on here, which is a great song. And for those of you who don't know, Jonghyun's sister Sodam, she actually did a cover of Happy Birthday and recorded it for the Shinee Foundation YouTube channel. And again, I almost cried because her brother wrote this song and she sang it for her brother on his birthday. And I'd never heard Sodam sing. I'd never even heard she wanted to sing. But, you could tell that she's nervous as she's singing it. It's not a perfect vocal, but she tried really hard to be as close to the original as possible. And it's just a really loving and sweet tribute from a sister to a brother that is much loved and very much missed. So moving on from there, we have Jonghyun's first album, because Bass was a mini album. It wasn't a full album, which is this. She Is, I think in Korean, it's just Joa, but She Is an album that SM really did dirty. I'm just gonna say it. SM did Jonghyun dirty with this. When this album came out, it was sandwiched between a number of releases. I think it was like Tiffany, Taeyeon, Jonghyun, Boa, and EXO was at the tail end of this series of releases. So it seemed like there was an album coming out like every 2 weeks. And then something happened with the video. And it's never been confirmed what happened or if it was intentional, but the color of the music video for She Is really off-putting. Like if you watch that video, it feels almost like it was either underexposed or the colors didn't develop right, that there maybe was just a weird filter put on it. But the video is surprisingly colorful, but also extremely dark. And so it is really strange how this rolled out. And because of it, it really didn't get a lot of the acclaim that Bass got and that it deserved. And I think it hurt Jonghyun in a lot of ways that this album wasn't as well received, even though the same amount of effort was put into this. This wasn't an album that had a bunch of features like Bass did, but it still had quality songwriting, really great choreography, really great songs. White T-Shirt is a fan fave. Moon is a fan fave. I just Dress Up, as weird and kinky as that song is, again, fan fave. But yeah, the album didn't get promoted the way it should have. Hey, Anthony, because again, SM fucked it up. They also fucked over Luna, because Free Somebody is the gay anthem. And it didn't get the exposure it deserved because it didn't get the promotion it deserved. So fuck you, SM. Like, with a big dick. Fuck you. And then the last solo efforts that Jonghyun put out before he passed away, Story Op 2. Story Op 2, I'll be honest with you, I get really mad when I think about this album. There are two versions. There is this, which is the photo version, and this, which is the essay version, in case you're interested. The essay version has a bunch of art renderings of Jonghyun, and the photo version has a lot of pictures from the music video set. So just in case you're wondering the difference. This album was an album I liked when it came out. Again, same concept as Story Op 1, songs from the radio show, a couple other things featured in there, and, refined, but it wasn't really meant to be the same kind of project as a Bass or She Is. Even though it did have a video featuring him, and it does have his photos, but that really wasn't what he was going for with this album. I think that SM just said, people didn't like that big cock poster that you had with Story Op 1, so you need to do something with your face, or else we're not going to release it. I think that's kind of how that went. But this album makes me upset because there are a lot of people who did not know Jonghyun's history. And because they didn't know Jonghyun's history, when he passed away, instead of embracing his life in its totality, a lot of people made him the product of his tragedy. And they went back through his discography and his public performances and his radio show and other things that he did, and they all looked for signs that he was going to hurt himself, that he was living a miserable life, that he wasn't being heard, that nobody cared for him, and he was crying out for help this whole time. And Lonely, which is a song that climbed up the charts shortly after he passed, that has been kind of like the symbol or the go-to song when people talk about Jonghyun. And it upsets me because when Jonghyun passed away, his death was treated by the Western media as being a symbol of the corrupt K-pop system and how the system wears people down, and, South Korea's broken entertainment system. And it pissed me off because how can you reduce a man and his life's work to a mere cry for assistance when there were so many more dimensions to him? Like, he was a real person who lived a real life. He ate, slept, shit just like the rest of us. He had great moments, he had really dark moments, and he had everything in between. He had a love life, he had a hate life, he had friendships, he had family. And this album, for a lot of people, has come to symbolize all of the terrible things that were going on in Jonghyun's mind, and all the things that everybody should have seen, and all the cries for help that we all ignored. And they totally missed the fact that these songs were based on stories that other people had given him, that he set to music, that he interpreted himself. It takes away from the legacy of all the songs he wrote for Shinee that were anything but depressing. It takes away from She Is and Bass, and songs like Playboy that he wrote for Taemin. And it's hard for me to listen to this album today because I get so emotional about all the things that people have laid on Jonghyun's legacy because of the manner of his death. And instead of being proactive and understanding that Jonghyun's death is a result of an untreated mental health situation, that Jonghyun asked for assistance, and if there was one thing that you could pin his death on, it's the fact that the people that he asked for assistance from were negligent in their job. If we're not going to focus on that, don't go back and say, oh, it's K-pop. Because we all have shitty jobs. But one of the things that K-pop did for Jonghyun is it kept him here longer than he thought he would be. And he said it himself in his suicide note, that he did not know how he made it this long. He does not know how he held on for as long as he did. What held him to this earth for more time than we really deserve to have him was the music. And to tarnish the music with this depressing, tragic hero narrative that people who didn't know him and didn't love him want to give him pisses me off. It really and truly pisses me off. It is people rewriting him to fit the story that they've made up, and again, does the exact same thing that was done to him in life. They wrote off his humanity and instead stuck him with a label, and that's what he's got to live with. Just like the doctor stuck him with a label of a person who can never be happy, and that's just his character, instead of saying, you know what, maybe there's more to that than this. Maybe he needs assistance that includes meds, that includes going on vacation, that includes, deep psychoanalysis and therapy. Instead of doing that, they just said, you know what? You have a stressful job, kid, and you're just kind of a depressing sort. Get over it. And so I'm off my soapbox now. But I wanted to put that out there because it infuriates me and I hate it. And I think it minimizes a lot of things that were excellent about him. And so, rant over. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, these are still gorgeous albums, though. I would never wish death on anybody, but honestly, the psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, whoever that Jung-in talked to, who basically told him, you're depressed because it's your fault, I really hope bad things happen to them. I really do. I hope that your house gets foreclosed on. All right, and so that leads us to Jung-in's last solo effort. This was released shortly after he passed away. It was an album that he had completed before he passed away. He even did a concert show for it, and he shot a video for the title song, Shinee, and this is Poet Artist. Poet Artist is a beautiful album. It's gorgeous, perfect in every way. I think a lot of the momentum that was lost around She Is probably would have come back with Shinin', because Shinin' is one of the most hopeful and happy and uplifting sounding songs I've heard in a long time. The first time I heard Shinin' was when the video came out. And I remember the day that the album and the video came out because I listened to the album on Spotify first, waiting for the video to be released. And the video was released, and I sat in my car and I watched the video and I cried. And I cried happy tears. I didn't cry sad tears of like, oh my gosh, this is such a depressing song. I cried happy tears because our Jung-in left us with the comforting thought that no matter what happens to him with his body, with his estate, with anything else, he will always be with us. And he has been. Jung-in comes up in my life more often than I would like to admit. I think about him every day. It's been now almost a year and a half since he passed away. I still think about him every day. And it sounds like an exaggeration, or that, I'm just putting on. But I think about him every day because I think about Shinee at least once a day. A song reference. I mean, there are literally hundreds of songs in the Shinee discography. How can I not think about him? But I think about him. And sometimes I think about him and I'm sad. Sometimes I think about him and I smile. Sometimes I think about him and I laugh. He comes up on my Twitter feed every single day. Like, I can't ever forget him. And at this point, everything is still very fresh and very new. But this album, this last song, him saying that he'll always be with us and giving us something so incredibly hopeful. Him doing the same thing he's done from day one, trying to be an encouraging person, trying to be uplifting, understanding that people go through trials and trying to give them something to help them make it through those trials. It is a selfless thing. It is a selfless thing. And to his very last, Jung-in was a selfless person. For the people who didn't know him, He was smart. He was emotionally sensitive and intuitive. He was playful and he loved a good prank. He could occasionally be lazy. He had a super goofy laugh. Um, he was super touchy-feely. I think his favorite person to pick at was Key. He was constantly pulling on Key. There's this one gif of him sinking his teeth into Key's arm and pulling his arm skin. It's so weird. It's so weird. He's so weird. Um, he was cocky. He was very proud of his body, and he was showing off his body a lot during the Sherlock era and beyond. Um, he was cute. He was so adorable. Like his little face and his little body. And he was totally conscious of the fact that he was tiny. And so he would oftentimes like make jokes about him being smaller and like trying to get the tall people around him to come down to his level. And he was really sweet. Whenever it was Key's birthday, he would take Key out shopping and let Key buy whatever he wanted. And Key knew that Jongin would do that, and he would totally play Jongin that way. Key and Jongin had a very special friendship. Um, there are a lot of videos of Jongin just wanting to be around Key and constantly photobombing Key whenever they could. I think it was one year, it was Pocky Day, and they did I think it was an Instagram post where Key's got the Pocky in his mouth, and then the scene changes, and the Pocky's in Jongyun's mouth. It's like, ooh, did they kiss? Indirect kiss. But he was always really unafraid to be tactile with people. When Shinee would win awards, Jongin was the first to burst out in tears. And the year that they won the Daesung, 2013, oh my gosh, Jongin wailed, like literally wailed. Like you could hear it. He couldn't even get on the microphone because he was crying so hard, and you could hear him in the back while everybody else was talking. He's like, ah, ah. He was so, I shouldn't laugh because that poor baby, his little sensitive heart. But it's funny because Jongin was funny. You know, not every tear he shed was a tear of frustration or a tear of sadness. He had moments where he had tears of joy. He was a sensual person. You know that from listening to his music. Like, Jonghyun obviously had an extremely active sex life. But he was sexy, so he could do that. You know, he was a man who his sensuality and sexuality oozed out of him in his performances, and he moved like a man with some experience. He had great friendships. He was the kind of guy that people just really liked. They just really liked him. And he was a great friend. He was a super loving brother. Sodom was his heart. He talked about her all the time. He always talked about how beautiful his sister was, how smart his sister was, how she was his favorite person, how he would never let any member of Shinee ever date his sister because his sister was too good for them. And he was a devoted son, and he loved his mother tremendously. And if there was any way on earth that he could have stood being alive, he would have done it for those two people. If he didn't do it for anyone else, he would have never broke his mother's heart. He would have never broke his sister's heart. But Jonghyun was human, just like the rest of us. And sometimes it hurts too much, you know? Sometimes it just hurts too much. Sometimes we're just going through it too much. And it just doesn't seem like there's a way out. And I speak this as someone who has recently had um, a suicide in their own family. My uncle died last September 2018. He shot himself. And it's something where for years our family knew it was coming, and we paid for therapists, we paid for psychiatrists, psychologists, we did everything that medicine could afford. And because of that, my uncle lived for a lot longer than Jong Un. But at the end of it all, after considering how it would hurt his mother, how it would hurt his family, he did what he did. And he tried. He tried, and he just couldn't do it anymore. And Jong Un tried. Anyone who says that Jong Un took the coward's way out, or that he is any less of a man because he couldn't face his demons, you need to grease up and meet me in the parking lot so I can kick your ass, because Jong Un tried. As someone who deeply cared about people, who spoke up for the rights of LGBT people and trans people and anyone else who he felt was oppressed or misunderstood or didn't feel seen, he saw you and he cared about you. And that kind of a heart doesn't do things like this out of cowardice, out of lack of understanding, or out of selfishness. It's done out of a place of unspeakable pain, of bottomless loneliness, of a kind of ache that is persistent even in your brightest time. And because of that, I understand. I didn't understand as much initially, but I understand. It doesn't make the pain any less real. It doesn't make it hurt any less. It doesn't make us wish that things had turned out differently anymore. But it does give you one fact to keep in mind. However life made Jong Un feel while he was here, those lowest moments that he felt, he'll never have to feel again. And that is the one small area of contentment that I take with me, that whatever pain that he could never find address for, it is no longer there. And that is a cold comfort in these times, but it is a form of comfort. So, happy birthday, Jong Un. Thank you for being here and being with us. Thank you for being a brother to four idiots. Thank you for being your mother's son and making her so proud of you. Thank you for giving Sondem a mission and a purpose that she didn't originally have, but that she has protected with everything in her. Thank you for allowing a community like the Shawwal community to form around you and to love you while you were here. Thank you for a legacy of music that suits every time in our lives and is constantly a source of comfort and encouragement the way that you meant it to be. Thank you for giving us your time on Variety, Hello Baby, when you guest appeared on We Got Married, your CF commercials, all the concerts, all the interactions. Thank you for existing and letting us get to know you, for all the pain that has been there for losing you. I wouldn't trade a moment of it because I got to know you. And that has been one of the biggest blessings of my life. I'll always be grateful that I got a chance to be a Shawwal during a time when you were here. I'll always be grateful that I got to see you twice. I'll always be grateful that I got to share in the joy of your wins, that I got to encourage you in the losses, and that I will be here for the people you left behind. Thank you very, very much for being Kim Jong-un. And we'll never forget you. OT5 forever. I will be Shawwal 365. Well, Shawwal 360. I don't know why I said 365. But Shawwal 360 until I can't be Shawwal 360 anymore. Thank you. I really mean that. Thank you. Y'all have a good night. And it's still technically Jong-un's birthday here, so happy birthday. It's a good excuse to drink. But yeah, thank you. Thank you. And this has been my Shinee collection. I'll talk to you guys later.